This is Legends of Tabletop, and I am Matt of the Woven team.
Excellent, Matt. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Leah Bond, and let's see. And we are talking about Woven today. What could you tell us about your game company and Woven?
Oh, everything, but we don't have the time. We don't have the time for everything. But I'll try a short version. Woven is being made by two companies. That sounds big, but it actually falls down to three guys. I'm one of the guys, Matt, one of the story writer of the game, and I made the game together with my good friend and associate Dominic de Graaf and Vincent da Silva, and we have created the start of Woven, the beginning of Woven. We've made a demo to showcase it and bring it on Kickstarter, where we seek the additional funding we need for the game. Should I tell a short bit what Woven is about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Stuffy?
The Stuffy. Are you straight to the Stuffy? Well, that's a good question. Stuffy is one of the main characters of the game. He is a stuffed animal in the shape of an elephant, and he has always wanted to travel. And he lives in a world of wool, all soft and warm and cuddly and nice. Um, and yeah, but he wants to travel, but he's a bit clumsy. I wouldn't say he wasn't smart, because he might be listening, but well, anyway, he's a curious elephant. He likes everything that moves, and watches flowers and butterflies a lot. And he meets Glitch, which is the other main character of the story. And Glitch is a metal firefly, like a robot firefly. And Glitch is the only metal thing in the world, it seems. And he has lost his memories. And he meets Stuffy. And they go on a journey together, for Glitch to find his memories, and to see what's going on and why is he here, and for Stuffy because he just wants to travel and likes to see stuff.
Okay. Is this your first Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's our very first Kickstarter. Yeah, and we actually want to start it like three months ago. And we talked with some guys who ran a Kickstarter before. Friends are at Kyokan Interactive, who did Deliver Us the Moon. And they said, well, you have a good game, but your page might need some work, and maybe you should delay a bit. So
your page is very well polished, I must admit.
Yeah, well, that's partly to do because we waited an extra 3 months to launch, in which we actually finished the prototype we were working on, made a real polished first part of the game, because we wanted to well, to showcase the game at his best, or at least at his best, that two guys can make it in 3 months.
Which is very impressive, I must admit.
Yeah, I don't know too how they did it, but they did it very well. I did the rhyme and the narration, but all the visual and all the programming was done by those two guys, Vincent and Dominic. And
what language did you use, or what language did they use
to program it? C#. In the Unity engine. Also they tell me.
Okay.
But I usually I'm not a programmer, so I usually do visual work. So I always get my my publics and privates confused, and I always have my privates public and my publics private, and I coded for a day, I think, just to know a bit what they were talking about.
Same here. I did a crash course in C#, and I know just enough to know that Unity's not the language for me.
Okay, well, but that got you pretty far, so that's good. Yeah, I actually bought C# for Dummies, which is very clear book, very helpful. Yeah, the first chapter at least.
Okay. Oh man. Upon visiting your website, there is a treasure trove of information held there. And it's not just about the game, but a resource for other independent developers too.
Our website?
Yeah,
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 do-
you
I,
address you address a lot of issues. I appreciate the entry that you have made regarding the naming of the game and
yeah.
other issues that I also need to take into account. For example, I never thought about adding a day and night cycle to
Okay.
a simple RPG that I want to create, but that would add a very nice dimension that I never even thought of.
It could
That is so
add a lot
cool.
of believability. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I did do blogging and wrote yeah, some pieces that I indeed put up on our website. I just never expected people to read them actually. But yeah, and I was invited to IndieWatch.net
Yeah.
as one of their guest writers after they read my blog about naming of your game and what it should or should not entail. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool because I actually wanted to be a writer,
Hmm.
but I'm not dyslexic, not the least, but I'm very 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 bad at spelling and writing in general. so so that's difficult when you want to become a writer. So that was very cool, and thank you for reading and enjoying the blogs. That's cool.
Oh, you're welcome. I recommend to anybody, any other independent game developers, like seriously, give the website a look. I mean, it's definitely worth a look.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's www.woventhegame.com, and
Mhm.
I will probably be posting more blogs as we go. We've just been too busy with the Kickstarter.
I can imagine so. Speaking of, tell us where we can find your Kickstarter again.
Okay. Well, our Kickstarter was chosen as to be a project we love by Kickstarter. So it's actually on the top of the game page. So if you go to www.kickstarter.com and you type in Woven, or you go to games, then there's a picture of a dark forest with purple mushrooms and an elephant that looks to the camera very curiously. And that's where you find our Kickstarter. And by now, because we've already been in Kickstarter for 21 days, there was a lot of updates on the page that actually tell lots and lots and lots about the story and where we want to go. So the page is much more interesting now than it was 21 days ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um, let's see.
next
Oh,
question.
yes. Can you offer any other tidbits of advice for hopeful independent developers?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, one is never stop believing and keep chasing your dreams, because I think you can make your dreams come true. That sounds cheesy, but it's true. Actually, true. Yeah, it's the true. Yeah, because there's a lot of indie gaming is hard. Indie game development is hard. Um, you have to fight against a lot. Usually, not having enough money,
Mhm.
and after that, standing out enough in a crowd by having a specific art direction. Look at what other people do to inspire you if you want, but don't copycat them. Always be at least in some way unique and showcase that. Make the game you feel really enthusiastic about. So
Yes.
so yeah, make the game you want, but also keep in mind the game people would like to play, and try to combine that.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot more about Kickstartering, how and not to do, and public relations, and how to build up a
Mhm.
community, and how to talk with lots of people, and that you should actually. I gave this advice to a game developer at Indigo 2 days ago, and I was very amazed that he didn't already knew it. But you have to talk with the people that are going to play your game. Don't
Yeah.
don't hide behind your computer and close the windows, but actually visit those network meetings where gamers are also come. Go to conventions, even if you don't have something yet to put in their hands, but just go out there and really talk with people, because that's like really, really, really important.
To
So
build a
that's,
presence, even though you don't have a product yet. And
yeah,
just like you're speaking with me, I appreciate that.
thank you.
By the way, so yeah, I mean it's so important to go out and again just build a presence and
Yeah,
build that network.
and
Um,
you have to know what your audience is thinking, and at least for me, creating games is all about having other people play them. Well, that's what developing games for me is. Uh, it's not to make money, and it's not, or else I would be doing something else, and it's not even rhyming nicely. Of course, I like
and
rhyming, but I can do that in
that was
poetry.
aligned really well in the beginning of the game. That was so cute.
Yeah, but
A little
it's
nursery rhyme.
yeah, and that was my inspiration. But the fun is not in making it, but it's in hearing people like you say that it was cool.
Yeah, it was absolutely cool. And again, I really want to be able to turn on my console and see that pop up. That would be great.
Okay, so you want us to make a console version?
Well, first, I want to see it be successful enough that a console version is funded.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay,
yeah.
is that a
We're
good
on.
possibility to begin from?
It's a very good starting point, actually. Yeah, we want to aim first at PC, Mac, and Linux.
Yeah.
Linux is what we say. Which is already stretching things a bit, because it's already going for 3 platforms. But we can do that because of the engine, Unity. But after that, we certainly considering to go to consoles because of the sharing bit. You know, why only launch on one platform if it's going to rule out who's going to be able to play your game? That's just silly. But you need to have the funds to do so. So of course there are barriers to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what the Kickstarter is also about, just to kickstart it into the open, get it developed, and have people play it and enjoy it and spread the word. And if enough people like it, and if enough people like it enough to actually buy it, we'd have the funds to make it for consoles or to elaborate the game, or from there
Yeah.
we go.
I did notice that it is set to appeal to a very wide range of ages.
Okay. Yeah, that's not usually what people say. So how did you come to that conclusion?
Just with the whole nursery rhyme
Hmm.
aspect of it, it's like, oh, this would appeal greatly to a younger audience, but also, I mean, the casual gamer as well. You know, bridging that gap.
Well, and this answer has been refined somewhat over the course of the development. Our audience is everyone who likes Shrek.
Yeah.
Um, so it's indeed it's a game that really looks like it's for a young audience,
Okay.
and the and stuff is cute and stuff is cuddly, and you think, okay, well, that's for kids and might not be for me. Um, but there's actually a lot of layered humor
Okay.
and hints in there, and there's also a darker side to the story.
Mhm.
And as the story grows, it will become more an epic adventure than just a cuddly time,
Okay.
which is actually something you already see at the end of our pre-alpha demo.
Mhm.
So we indeed aim for a wide range of audience.
Okay. When did all three of you? I hate to put you on the spot to speak for those that aren't here.
Oh,
Um,
I can somewhat.
okay. Okay. When did you guys first start designing games? When did you think, hey, this is for me? I think I want to do this.
Well, that's a very indeed different question for all three of the people, because Vincent is actually already in the game development industry for 15 years now or so.
Oh
15.
wow.
Yeah. So he studied game design before it was actually called studying game design. There wasn't a study for making games, so he was one of the pioneers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he started very early, even years before that, just making prototypes on the first PCs possible, and actually runs in his family where other people in his family were also always coding or doing stuff, and he
Mm-hmm.
just sort of grew up to it and rolled into it. And I know for Dominic that he already dabbled in the magic of creating code during his teenage years, somewhere the age of 16,
Mm-hmm.
where he already well, whacked together code to make stuff for his brothers, for instance.
Okay.
And for me, I actually started 3 years ago,
Uh-huh.
which was also when the thought to go into game design first occurred me, which was at an unfortunate time in my life. Oh, that sounds very dramatic. I couldn't get a job. I studied
Mm-hmm.
psychology. I graduated with honors, and then uh, there was an overload in psychologists in the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
so nobody could get a job except for the lucky few. I ended up doing a dishwashing job
Mm-hmm.
with a university degree, which was kind of
Yes,
silly.
that is a
Um,
common tale over here too.
yeah, yeah. There's nothing wrong with dishwashing, but it could have saved me the trouble of going to university if that was to be my career. But anyway, at that moment, Dominic wanted to start a company in game design, making games. We had already made a card game, an actual tabletop card game.
What was the name of that?
It was yeah, it only was in Dutch, which was really stupid, but I didn't know better then.
No.
And it was called, translated, Mutineers of the Seven Seas.
Oh, that
And
sounds fun.
it was like it was still is a kind of a variety to werewolves. Maybe you know that. Uh, um, I don't know if the English name for werewolves, but you have this
Yeah,
village.
yeah,
Everyone
yeah,
has a role. Yeah. Okay. Um, but this was a pirate version with two equal teams, and we shifted a lot of the rules around and made a lot of new rules. And it first was sort of a variant, but then the rules became so different that we thought, well, this could actually be something we could print and share, which we did. And that was actually the basis of our company, because I think a few weeks or so after we made the prototype, he actually said to me, Dominic, well, I need a partner in crime, someone who can draw, because I can program, and let's do this because the cooperation is so good and we work so well together. We were good friends and not roommates, but we lived in the same student home.
Mhm.
Um, and he said, well, let's do this. And I said, well, Dominic, of course, but you are aware that I can't draw. And he said, of course you can draw. I've seen your refrigerator. And I said, well, my refrigerator isn't actually a good example of drawing. And he said, no, you are too humble. Come with me on this adventure. And well, that I went, and that was 3 years ago, and it went pretty well. And I learned myself to draw digitally, Illustrator and
Oh,
Photoshop, and actually did some work I was really proud of.
excellent.
That was cool.
Where could we find that?
The refrigerator, or the
Not
work I
the
did.
work, the work that you did.
Well, the first game I
Is it
did actually,
available?
was Mohawk Bird Run, which was a way too intricate game actually. I would do it differently now, but for a first assignment, it was really cool, and we actually did pretty well, I think, looking back. So yeah, there you can see my me drawing cartoonesque birds and trees and stuff. And I think a lot of the other work I did is still under. It hasn't been released yet. It's been made for a customer of ours, and it hasn't been released yet, so we can't show it yet, I think. But there are some images on our website, www.alteregogames.nl. So yeah, but actually, because I didn't originate from visual design, once we had Vincent on board, who was way better than me, he actually became the art director and the one doing the visual stuff, which he did for Woven. All you see visually in Woven is actually his, except for the bits and pieces of user interface, which I did.
Okay. Well, I mean, everything in the game, it seems to be a very well polished game compared to some other alphas or even betas or forbid finished products that I have looked at that have come to market.
Yeah, it happens.
Far outshines many of the indie things that I have seen, and this is very well produced, and I am thankful for that. Also, I was going to say with the Mutineers of the Seven Seas that you had said earlier, being primarily in Dutch. I mean, of course, you know, Witcher was in Polish and then translated, and it's well loved worldwide.
Yeah, that's true, and it's good to have to first have a community that supports your game and wants to talk positively about it, and then translate it. So there were plans for translating, but it would have been so much easier if we'd had. It would have been, because the game itself is just pictures, except for the names of the characters. So the only thing we would have to change was the manual, and because as the game is now, to translate it, we would have to reprint the whole game, and we still have 500 or so lying in gathering dust with Dutch manuals that we could have handed out with English ones or German ones, because there's like a really big gaming population in Germany actually, and they are our neighbors. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say something. I was just talking with a German expatriate that lives down the street from me about how he loved role-playing games, and he was talking to me about a tabletop role-playing game that he'd finally gotten, and then now he couldn't play it because it's in German. And all of his friends speak English, so anyway.
Yeah, but that's why the multilingual thing is really nice. But we already have the prototype of our next card game, but we just never had the time to do something with it. But we'll make sure it's in all languages, because it's that simple. It's that extra step you have to take, and everyone can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy we did Woven in English and not in Dutch, because I think that would have been awful. Rhyming in Dutch.
I don't know any Dutch, so I don't know. I'm just guessing that the language itself is very guttural.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
the language is actually, you can hear it in Dutch people speaking English, that their tone is usually a bit flat. And when we hear someone speaking English, a native speaker, we always think they talk so melodious because they go like this and the voices change and go like everywhere, and Dutch people always talk a bit like this because their language is actually a bit like this.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Dutch language. It's really lots of and and hard rough tones. But
Okay.
yeah, to each his own, I think.
That's true. But what are your feelings on Kickstarter as a new paradigm for bringing games to market?
Well, a very tough one, actually. That's not. I'm not just saying that because we only have 8 days to go, and 70% of the funding. But it's a really tough platform because one, it was how do I say this politely? Well, I don't. It was a bit screwed up by people with false promises or unrealistic planning. So a lot of the Kickstarter potential Kickstarter backers or ex-backers actually, I talk about Woven, and they say, well, your game looks great and seems like really something I would like to play, and I really like the demo, but my trust has been broken too many times by the Kickstarter platform, and that's why I don't or I won't back this project, which is really, really tough because it was actually one of the last ways of the small indie guy to get funding and to get his game made. Besides always living at your parents' home.
Oh, well, I can understand where there is some trepidation on behalf of the individual funder to want to withdraw
Yeah.
from game development, specifically because there have been so many nightmarish tales of misuse of funds.
Yeah. Like, well, I
And
can't blame them a bit because indeed the news is terrible, and there are a lot of developers that don't take it seriously enough. Perhaps they
yeah.
they set like too low a goal,
Mhm.
um,
Or
and
too high of aspirations that can't
yeah,
possibly be attained.
yeah, we are going to make a multiplayer, and it's their first project, a massive
Yeah.
multiplayer game with survival theme and
Well,
uh,
no.
no, no, please don't. Just make a small game. Make that good.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
that's one thing that I really do like about this game is that it is, I mean, there's already a product there. I mean, it may not be 100% completed yet, but this is one that I would like to see achieve completion.
thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But let's see. When you are not designing games,
Okay.
what do you like to play?
Well, that's a trick question because at least for the last 4 months, we've been working so hard that I actually started Borderlands, the Telltale game.
Yeah.
So Tales of the Borderlands, but I only got to episode. I think I'm still halfway episode 4.
Oh.
Yeah, but I like the Telltale games because they're really story driven. And Mass Effect, I'm a huge fan of the Mass Effect games.
Mhm.
I'm actually the sole person out there that actually thought the revised ending was any good. So bring on the hate. But
No.
and yeah, and in my spare time, and this is very odd, I also like to play World of Tanks.
Oh, my brother loves World of Tanks. That is
Yeah.
one of his absolute favorites.
Yeah, well, it's I like the tactical realness of it. That if I actually hit a vehicle at the right part, that part is the one that explodes or is crippled, or and that and it's that sense of realism that I really like. I really hate the community because they were really ugly. And yeah, they are really. Yeah, I've turned off chat because
Okay.
I kept being bothered too much with everyone calling everyone an idiot and a noob, and so I said I'm not going to get happy of this chat, so I'm going to. After a year of trying to talk with everyone that was angry, I was always the guy that said, "Well, look at it on the bright side."
Mhm.
But yeah, I gave up, and then now the chat is off. But so those are the games I like to play.
Okay. Well, let's move on to other media. What do you like to read? What are you reading right now?
Well, I'm actually not reading myself, but I read to my girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
She really likes that, and I really like the storytelling part and the voices, which is
Mhm.
something probably I inherited from my dungeon master, the Dungeons and Dragons days.
Yeah.
And I read at the moment Terry Pratchett's,
Mhm.
and then the the Light Fantastic. So that's the second book with Rincewind for anyone,
Okay.
because probably people know the book because Terry Pratchett is awesome.
Yes. What do you like to? What music do you like to listen to?
Um, lots of things. It depends. I always listen to 07 before I go to sleep. That's my go to sleep album because of all of the layers they hid within their music, and I can sort of follow it and then trail off into sleep. And I really like public service broadcasting that really has this strong sense of rhythm to it. And for the singing, singing the lines, they only use old uh, bits of audio from old
Documentaries. Yeah.
documentaries. So so they made this album, The Race to Space. It's all about uh, the Apollo flights and well, how that got there. And they really tell a story from beginning to end, which I really like. It has a really thematic thing. So that's public service broadcasting. And I also like Coldplay and Kate Bush,
Okay.
Neil Young,
Mhm.
ELO, David Bowie, and I listen to
Yeah.
classical music as well. I have a record player,
Okay.
and
I
I play a
remember
lot of records.
those.
Yeah, yeah. My collection is just behind me here, so below. So
Okay.
my favorite records.
Excellent. Now, when you're coding, and I might be asking you to speak for others that aren't here, when you're coding or working on building your game, how do you address time management issues?
Well, we have what we call the 80% rule,
Mhm.
um, which could sound like we don't finish up our products, but that's not true. Um, what we usually say, and I also explain this to my interns, that 80% rule is well, you have a certain amount of skill and you have a certain amount of time, and you can get 80% of the work done in 20% of the time, and the last 20% of perfectioning takes forever. Why? Because if you're a perfectionist like all of us, then you really you bring it to a level that it's good, and from that point you try to make it very good, and then you are at 80%, and from that moment you're going to not dot all the i's, but to make sure that all the i's are dotted exactly the same way. We say don't do that. Learn from the 20% you drop and take that with you to the next project you go on. So take it to the level you can achieve in an effective amount of time. Then you see all these things that you could have done better. Yeah, that's true. But if you're going to fix them now, you're going to take forever. So don't do that, but learn from them take those things you see you did wrong, learn, and take them to the next project. So
That's excellent.
that's the basis, I
Something I
think.
have not heard before.
Yeah, and
in my limited time.
and that works really well. You have to, of course, make sure you don't make it too easy on yourself. So you just dabble something and hack something together, and then say, well, 80% I'm done. Oh, I'm go home. So that's not how it should go, especially not when you're working with for clients, because we also do a lot of work for hire. So you have to make sure it's up to standards.
Mhm.
But the bit of perfectioning it, yeah, don't do that. People will probably not see it, because that's the bit where you say, oh, I got to change all the textures because in this one frame you could see it doesn't blend well with the greens of the sky, so I'm going to change everything. And that frame might be noticed by maybe one player who will not think very long of it and will probably enjoy your game, if you have any quality, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what obstacles have you found that you've needed to overcome, and how have you overcome those obstacles
For Woven.
for
Or for
Woven, and just the Kickstarter in general?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, the Kickstarter has lots of things to overcome. Um, the two guys, they mostly make the game. I'm the one spreading the word for the game, and going to places like 9gag to talk about it,
Mhm.
which is a very odd place to go, but it was appreciated, actually. One of the things very hard to overcome for me personally is not to get hit too much by negative commentaries.
Mhm.
I'm a bit the sensitive guy, so so I know I shouldn't take some people seriously, especially not when 99% is so positive.
Yeah.
That 1% that just is trolling your post or is trolling your comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a switch for me to realize, okay, this person doesn't know me.
Mhm.
He probably doesn't know what I'm making, because he probably just scanned over it and it hit him the wrong way, and he's just all sprouting away his anger.
Typing it.
So so it shouldn't hit me personally because he doesn't know me personally. Uh, if such a comment would come from someone who knows me very well or has played the game for a very long time, then it would make sense, but I shouldn't take everyone that seriously. That was
That's
one
true.
thing. Um, for the Kickstarter and the preparation, yeah, to the hardest thing was to actually reach enough people. So you can have this great game, but if people don't know of it, your Kickstarter is not going to fund, and your game is probably not going to get made. Um, so that was really difficult, because I also wanted to work on the game or on pieces of the narration, or work out pieces of the story in further detail. But there was also always this uh, um, um, arrangement. No,
Balance.
sorry.
Balance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Balance in between those two uh, tasks. So how much time do we spend on the game, and how much time do we as a team spend on telling people about the game? Because you have to make it good enough so that people will see it and like it. But you also have, well, if you're just going to make it very good and then hit the Kickstarter button, open your eyes to the world and say, oh, hey, by the way, world, we have this game and it's really awesome because we spend all our times in it. And now you should probably go and head for the Kickstarter page. And then that one person, which is probably my mother, will of course run to the Kickstarter page, which is very awesome. And I really thank my mother. But it's not going to fund the game. So so yeah, so it became sort of my a full-time responsibility to just shout out the world in a way that
Yes.
isn't conceived as spam,
No.
because that's nobody's way is wants that. So yeah, so that's one of the difficulties I can at least very personally tell about.
Okay. Now, leading up to closing out this wonderful interview, and thank you so much for spending your time with me today.
Of course, of course.
I'm going to lead into what we call here at Legends of Tabletop the final five.
Okay.
Video game or tabletop game? Which do you prefer and why?
Tabletop game.
Why would that be?
Because of the live human interaction. Because of the interaction people have across the table.
Okay.
It's why we started in games with card games, and we also always aim for some sort of interaction in the video games we are currently making to make a reaction to the player. Sorry, next question.
Yeah. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh no, you didn't. No. Oh my God. I'm going to go with Star Trek because of Jean-Luc Picard. Sole reason.
Okay, that I tend to lean on the Star Trek side of things as well.
Okay.
Yeah, simply because the universe is more richly developed. There's much more content available.
Everything is declared canon.
Well, yeah, it's so much richer in my mind. Most of the content that's developed for Star Trek versus Star Wars, which is very action packed and wonderful as well. But if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Flight. Why? Because I always dream of flying. Half of the times I can have this lucid dreams, and that's always when I decide. Well, then I'm going to fly. I'm going to fly over mountains. I'll be a crow, or I'll be a raven, or a hawk, and I'm going to fly over mountains. And actually went into snowboarding because of that, because it sort of gives me the feeling of flight. So yeah, flying, and that's probably not the the most OP of powers, and probably I should wish for something like, oh, there's something that I could wish that I have all the powers in the world, but no, but I'll stick with flight. Yeah.
That's great. Let's see, Marvel or DC? I don't know. It's simply because of global location. That might be an irrelevant question.
No, never an irrelevant question. No, we
Okay.
get all the movies here that you do, just
Okay.
half a year too late. But yeah, definitely Marvel. And that's actually not a difficult one, because I really don't like the DC comics. There's very few of the DC comics or movies, because I've mostly seen the movies that I like, and I grew up watching the animated series of the X-Men, um, which I really loved, and I always watched the animated series of Spider-Man, which is Marvel, right? It's Marvel, right?
I
Yeah.
think it is. I think it
Yeah, I
is.
think so too. Yeah, but it was bought up by difficult story. But anyway, yeah, Marvel.
Okay.
And the Galaxy, the heroes of not Galaxy,
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, that movie made me laugh so many times. So that was great. Yeah.
Sci-fi or fantasy?
The guys at work, I'm going to laugh about this because I'm actually quite opinionated on the matter.
Really?
Because yeah, they say that Star Wars is fantasy, and they say Harry Potter is science fiction, and they do it just to drive me nuts. And I'm very clear on the matter. If there's spaceships in it, it is sci-fi, and if there's a dragon in it, it is fantasy, and I will discuss it no further. But your question was which I do prefer.
Hmm.
Ay, ay, ay. I think I'll go with fantasy because of all the Robert Jordan books I read, and yeah, I mostly read fantasy books, and they have shaped me the most. So yeah, fantasy.
Okay, awesome. Well, I do appreciate greatly, Matt, you taking the time to spend with us here at Legends of Tabletop.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful, and all the best of luck to you in your Kickstarter
Thank
and
you.
Woven in general. Um,
Yeah. 8
I'm a
days to go,
fan.
so it will be
Yeah.
hard work.
Okay. And everyone watching, I wish you well, and I will see you again soon.